to go ahead and start the recording.
Okay.
And then does anyone want to offer the opening prayer?
I can.
All right.
Thanks, Zach.
Dear Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this day and the opportunity we have to meet as a group for our business class. And we ask Thee to bless us to have understanding and to enlighten us so that we may learn and grow from what we're about to talk about. And we thank Thee for the opportunity we have to work together and do well in our courses. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
Awesome. I am still trying to pull up the questions, so if someone already has them, they can start us off.
Sure. The first thing they want us to do is summarize the situation that Quincy's in right now at December 12th, and describe the two options the founders are debating and what is at stake with this decision. So anybody want to tackle that, or?
Yeah, sure. Oh, oops, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, so essentially what's happening is, there's the two friends, they started the business together, and they had done, basically they had made a lot of business decisions, and they were trying to differentiate themselves by allowing women to have business apparel that were more custom fitted and weren't the normal sizes. Like they had incremental sizes, and that was their differentiator. However, it cost them a lot of money to do that, and it was kind of a manufacturing nightmare and made them carry a lot more inventory than they needed to on hand. And so they were running and burning and through capital really quickly. So they needed to, basically they needed a bridge loan in order to continue to operate to get to their spring line. Or they were, their alternative option, if they couldn't find the funding, is to shutter the doors and basically stop doing what they were doing. So that's the gist of it, I think. I hope I got that right.
Sounds pretty good to me.
That was the right case, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we were to take a vote, then and that timestamp's pretty early there, Catherine, for the summary, if you're needing to do that.
Well, I think the summary that they're talking about is like your end summary of everything you took away from the meeting.
Oh, really?
I think so. That's what I've been doing, because it says at the end of the meeting, take time to give a summary of your votes and final decisions. You'll need to provide a timestamp for this.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can read. I promise.
No, you're good.
So, how does everybody vote?
So, are we going with Nelson's approach of either like ranging down the sizes, or Nelson's approach of getting the loan and not ranging down, or Nelson's approach or Wallace's approach of closing? Because like Wallace wants to keep the range of sizes if they stay open, but Nelson wants to narrow them. But then at the end, it also said Wallace was thinking about maybe the best decision is just to close up shop. And so, I don't know. What are we like?
I guess you could vote on any of the three.
Vote for either three?
Yeah, let's take out their names because I don't know who wants what, but I know the ideas, so let's just do it that way.
So personally, like what I wrote on for like the personal thing was I thought they should scale back their offerings, like their sizing offerings, and for no other purpose than to limit the amount of inventory they'd need to have. And I think the most important thing to me, may not be the right thing, was they had a big problem, like a 68% problem with returns. And so I think their return percentages were high because they were priding themselves on providing the perfect fit. And so if the fit isn't exactly perfect, then people are going to send it back. Where if they had, like if they were providing bust size, like our cup size A and B and C and D instead of A, B, C, and D separated, then people don't have such a high expectation. And so they can still provide a lot more choices than the standard industry, but not make it so consuming and so many options that it provides all these outs for people to return the clothing and have too high of an expectation. Then on top of that, they need to restructure their responsibilities as well as the responsibilities of the people working for them. But I thought they could do it if they scaled back, in a nutshell.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dave. I vote for them to just scale back their operations because I think, the complexity of having the perfect fit, and you hit on it too, Dave. If it's not the exact perfect fit, it's going to get sent back. But if people don't have that expectation, but they want they've got a good, they're fitting into that. There's the high end kind of dress, high price, and then there's kind of the lower price, and they're kind of fitting well into that, middle gap. And so I think, they're onto something, and they don't necessarily need to really go after the individual sizing until maybe they get, some scale and they're able to have some extra capital to maybe play with that. But early on, it's just going to suck money and burn it faster than they know what to do with. So I think they should, if they're going to continue to operate, they need to scale back. And I think the investors will like that better as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so on their return rate's only 35%, which says is on par with other online retailers. So that's not that bad. But of that 35%, 68% related to fit.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah. I just looked it up because I thought I remembered it saying that returns were like pretty average compared to everyone else. So what I thought is that they need to continue with what they have. Their whole value proposition is based on the fact that they offer different varieties of fits of how it'll fit different people. That's like their whole business plan. The whole thing is centered around that. So I think for them to move away from that kind of just is going to destroy a lot of what they built. Because that was their main focus and their value proposition when they took it. So I think that they have to keep going with it because that's kind of the niche that they got themselves into. And because it says they're both taller women, so it's hard to find stuff. And that's why they started it. So I think if they scale back and kind of, lean towards more of a general fit, they lose that value proposition. I do think that they probably jumped into it too quickly at the beginning and didn't research enough the production of it and have like kind of a good system in place, or at least an idea of their system in place before they started. Because, they had the first person that was going to make stuff for them canceled their first order because someone else came in. So I think they need to figure that out. But I don't think that they can just get rid of their entire value proposition. So that was my thought on it.
So I'm kind of on the same page as Zach here. I thought that it'd be like hurtful to their company to pretty much change what they were offering, because that is what made them stand out and everything. But then I also said that I think that it's time to just cut their losses and close out the business and everything, because if they got the bridge loan and they still weren't able to figure out a way to successfully get the business back better, then they're going to be out that much more money and have to pay off that many more people and possibly end up not being able to pay all the investors and their employees and the severance packages and everything else. And so at the very end, with her saying, like, if we cut now, we could pay all of that, then I felt like that's really the best option, because like Zach kind of went into it, they didn't come in with a very like good background on how fashion worked and how the fashion industry was ran and all the different kinds of people you need. Like, it's not just one seamstress and that's all you need. Like, you need all these different sections. And they didn't know all that, and they didn't do the research. And so I think like even if they got that bridge loan, I don't think the 5 months or 6 months it would give them is enough to change the business around. So that's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought this as my second best option. I said to just kind of wind down, because they were both worried about their reputations and all that. So
One thing I guess I just realized from what I was just kind of reading back through what I wrote, but it said they had tons of inventory on hand. I thought that if they scaled back the sizing and then focused, I mean, just to get through to where they can get, and establish some profitability, because they're growing their sales through their platform, I think, and they're gaining market awareness. And so, and I think they're in the right market. Again, I think they're in that niche market in between the high end and the low end. They found that middle ground of the suits and, kind of dress wear. But I also said they should burn through and sell their current inventory, because it said they had a lot on hand. But I also feel like they should focus on their top sellers. And, and then as they're kind of going through getting their spring line going, they should just really, because I think like you were saying, they don't know the business and they went too broad. And I think if they narrowed down and focused on their best selling products, it would be good for them if they were to continue, just to be able to maximize their profitability. And again, just gain some composure and some control over the financing of the business and the cash flow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of I'm trying to fix my thing. Okay, I was kind of thinking that my second choice would be the get rid of the shut down shop. But yeah, I think they were just in there were a host of bad decisions. You guys have already touched on it. I think too big, too fast, too many options, too fast. They could have, and they alluded to that later when they come. I think it's in the B case when they talk about Bonobos or whatever that male line of clothing or something like that. They had started out with just like one style of pant, and until they got that perfected and figured out, they didn't even move on to other styles. So while it's hard to go backwards, I felt that they needed the business to be running a lot more smoothly before they stayed on the track they were on. I know they would probably off-put some people who had already gotten used to how things are now with being able to choose fit, but they can always. I thought they could come back to that later after they really tightened the shit down. But interestingly enough, we've all got different opinions there almost.
yeah.
I don't know, after discussing it, I wouldn't be opposed to them shutting down the business, because I'm with you. I think they've kind of gone too far down the rabbit hole. I think it's going to be tough for them to kind of climb back out from where they're at. And at some point, I think with a lot of businesses that don't start off on the right foot, it's hard to know when to stop. And you keep going and keep going and keep going, and you wind up in a whole bigger mess. So I don't know. I'm kind of leading towards shuttering shop, but.
Well, we all agree. I think that's the second best. Like, that was all of our idea. If our idea didn't go well, to shut down. So maybe that is the best.
Like, it's hard because, like, you can tell it's something that they really are passionate about and you want it to work out for them. Like, I know if it was me, because I eventually want to open my own shop up, I wouldn't want to close up shop. I'd want to do everything possible. But what also like made it for me was one of them talked about how they would have to let go half of their staff if they did keep going, but they can't afford to do that because like those people have a certain part in the business, whether it's making sure that it's a good product or making the fit work or whatever it is. Like you can't, it was talking about how fashion, you need more than just like one kind of person or whatever. And so I feel like if they were to keep going and they needed to let go of half their people, it's going to end up making it possibly worse because they don't have those people to help them get that product out.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was actually thinking they needed to hire more people. So. Okay. Well.
I guess so. How should they approach the board meeting? I guess we kind of went over that.
Yeah, we've kind of talked. We've kind of talked about, I think, at least the first two. You know, yeah, why should the current investors make the loan? I don't. I mean, it's a good idea. I think it's a pretty good idea. But that would be the only reason to me for continuing with the loan is because the idea is good enough.
Yeah.
That's just me, though.
Yeah. I mean, good idea. There's potential with it, but I think it's just all in their processes and having it right before they start, especially before they started selling so many.
Me personally, if I was the investor, they would have to come up with a really solid, from this point out, business plan of how they're going to make it work. And I'm going to have to like really believe that it's going to make it work before I would be willing to reinvest or do the bridge loan or whatever. So I just feel like if they are wanting to, they need to all be on the same page with a really good business idea and plan for the next 6 to 12 months on how to get it better.
This question was interesting. Should the investors fine the founders? They're already in money trouble, so if they get fined, it's just going to make it worse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I don't know how an investor could fine them.
Well, charge them more for the money.
Yeah.
But
if they shut down, I don't know. I guess I'd have to pay them more.
Well, yeah, if they shut down, then it's over. There's no need for fines or anything. They get whatever money back they can.
I mean, the other good thing is their sales went up every single year, as well as their gross margin and their earnings before incomes and taxes.
The next question brings that up, like, do they feel a strong unmet need and the evidence of it? And I think, like, yeah, they do, because it is a growing market and their profits are going up and, like, everything is going up. I think they just started out badly.
The next question says it perfect. Do they have a solid technology and operations strategy? No.
Yeah, like you guys are saying, I think the idea is a great idea, and the execution of the idea has been really poor. And they've just been doing a lot of trial and error instead of forming like strategic partnerships that maybe could have helped them early on in the game, to get up and running with the right kinds of manufacturing and the right people in the right places. Because they had issues with their seamstress or whatever. They just had issue after issue that could have been resolved with the right partner up front. So.
Yeah, I think I asked you guys this at the beginning of the class. Have you guys had 383 yet?
I'm doing it right now.
You're doing it right now. And what about you, Kenny?
Yeah, I'm in it.
You're in it right now as well?
In it to win it.
Yeah, so that business model canvas, to me, every time I see these cases, that that's probably been one of the, I think, most important things that I've learned so far going back to school is that it sounds stupid that canvas would be important. In fact, when I started learning about it, I was like, man, this is just something stupid to waste my time.
Yeah.
But I own my own business. I've had my own flooring company for, I don't know, 15 something years. And I'm actually starting another company. And it's amazing how much the idea behind the canvas totally solves a lot of these problems that like this case has. You know, if you're asking a ton of questions and really getting as much knowledge as you can before you even start this, then you eliminate a lot of mistakes. And you know, that's what their problem is they didn't ask enough questions. They had the problem and they saw the need because of what their own problems were, but you know, solving that problem, they needed to talk to a bunch of people in the industry to know what to expect, and they probably would be doing fine right now.
Yeah.
So if you guys are going to start businesses, pay attention to the BMC. It's actually good stuff.
For sure.
So
Have we touched on what they would have to do really well?
yeah, well, reorganize and restaff, or at least I had put down in my paper that they needed to define the responsibilities of all the people that were working there, because they made it sound like everybody's pissing and moaning about what they had to do or if they had to go outside of what their role was, and they should define the employees that your roles and responsibilities are going to overlap with other people's. You know, so if they've got their operation running smoothly with the staff, then they're going to limit their problems. They need to define their own roles better so that they're not all getting butthurt every time a decision is made.
Yeah.
That reminded me too. It talked about how they got they were so desperate they just got whoever they could. They didn't get people who believed in the company and were willing to work for the company, and so they hired crap people from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they were to try again, honestly, I would say fire everyone and rehire, because nobody believed in the company, I feel like.
Yeah, they're just putting in time. They didn't care what happened.
Yeah.
Piggybacking on that comment, I think they also need to clearly define their roles as they mentioned that they were co-CEOs in their own minds, but then to the investors, they shot out a different story, anyway. And so I think they really need to, instead of being best friends running a business, which I think can be really hard, I think they really need to clearly define each other's roles and make their decision-making process much better and more effective, because it seems like, okay, one might make a decision and then they run up and butt heads with with the other one, and it creates and then they backtrack and they've lost time and money. And so I think they really need to set better boundaries for their own kind of roles within the company.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So then it says to compare it to RTR, which is rent the runway. Yeah. So
see, Rent the Runway, they started out with a small amount of inventory and then grew from there, which is what this company should have done. They went too much inventory or too many options too quickly. Rent the Runway started out with just a few and then grew.
Yeah, because they needed more inventory, right?
Yeah.
I remember.
Who, Rent the Runway?
Yeah.
Yeah, they just offered so many styles. They didn't try to please every Tom, Dick, and Harry. So.
Yeah, because this group, they had 3 different collections that they're trying to sell to 3 different group of people. And if they had just focused on one, it could have been better.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next was the cash flow formula good? Example 6.
Is it example or exhibit?
It might be exhibit.
I was just going to look at that, the cash flow. Well, their projections were good, but their actuals
Oh, there's
were,
only one actual.
yeah, but comparing the actual, I mean, it was way off. When net sales, they projected 421 million, and instead it was 42 million. Oh, thousands, excuse me, 421,000 versus 42,000. So they were actually,
So was the actual for just that 1 month or up until that month?
well, I guess arguably that's as of October 12th,
Okay.
but still, I mean, it's not like in 2 months they're going to make up,
Yeah.
you know, they're not going to make up whatever that is, 200 or 300 something thousand dollars.
Yeah.
So, I don't know that they're, I mean, as from what they're projecting, it looks good, but if you're going by one actual, it's not very good.
Yeah. And then were the founders a good fit to each other or to the business? I honestly,
Almost neither.
yeah, I almost want to say neither because they didn't. If they had done better research, it would have been a whole different story, whole nother ballgame. But I feel like they're not a good fit for this business because they didn't do the research. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're doing. And then it's just hard. They were going on two different paths at the end, and so all kinds of bad.
I think as far as business goes, they would be fine. I think that maybe they needed to just get one more founder on board with them from the beginning, that knew that business better.
I agree.
Because I mean, they're obviously both bright women. So I think just one more person that had experience in that industry would have made it a lot smoother.
Yeah, and I think it would have made the decision making a lot easier because then they could have put it to a vote, you know, and majority rules.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think when you have only two people making decisions, it's easy for them to quarrel and kind of bicker at each other about the decision making process.
That's where that 50-50 gets dicey.
Right.
Yeah. For sure.
How about the team, investors, and partners?
Talked about the team, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the investors were good investors. I don't remember there being problems.
The only problem they said they expressed was, and maybe it was in the B case, was that the investors they didn't have actually a lot of experience with that industry, other than kind of, or they thought they did because they'd invested in these other companies that were in the industry. But when it came down to it, you know, they were the ones prompting them to get a whole lot of inventory. And the girls actually felt like they shouldn't have as much as they were telling them to have. So, I mean, that could be one negative. But and then the other negative being they needed like 1.2 to 1.3 and only got 900 or something. So had they had an investor that got them all the money they needed, maybe they would have been able to weather the storm.
Good point.
And then if you had 6 months more cash, could you fix Quincy?
I'm going to be cocky and say yes.
I think it's possible too. I mean, 6 more months, but they really need to just focus on their processes and just being more efficient with that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. This is hard because, like, I want to say yes, But at the same time, I just feel like it's almost too far gone. But like being I'm not a super optimistic person, so if I was more optimistic, I would probably say yes too. But personally, I wouldn't think so.
I just feel like they have such a big market. Like they are in a really good like niche there with what they're doing, that there's a lot of demand for it. So
Oh, I
I
agree.
just think that I don't know, I just see a lot of potential in it. So
I mean, I guess if they were to like research more, get more knowledgeable about the fashion industry, get a new team, figure out how to scale back while still keeping their not motto, but
Their MVP or their value proposition.
yeah, like what their business stands for, then yeah. But I feel like they would need longer than 6 months to do all of that. That's just me.
I concur.
So for the B case thing, we've kind of already discussed.
Well, so my understanding was we weren't supposed to do B case.
We're not.
Because he put a post on the discussion board and it said, it looks like there's a question that was left in the course. You should ignore the case B question for the Quincy Apparel case. So I didn't even read case B.
Directions more.
I mean, we can still talk about it, but I didn't read it personally because I didn't think we were supposed to.
My bad. Yeah, I just went down the list and started. Because last time I didn't read the B case and the C case, and so I wanted to be more ready. I didn't even read that.
No, you're good. I was going to do the same thing, and then I saw that announcement, so I was like, okay.
Well, so I think for the last question, what are the top takeaways? I think we've kind of discussed that. New staff, more knowledge. Should have started with a trimmer line to begin with before expansion.
Yeah.
I think you hit it, Dave. I think a better business plan up front is like my key takeaway from this whole thing is the planning. And, people are eager to jump into something because they think they have a niche, but the better planning that you have, the less chance you have of running into all these problems. So I think that's my big takeaway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Then do we want to look at the assignment?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to look up right now, what our actual assignment is.
We have to do it's a writing again, and I believe that he had said 1,000 to 1,500. But I think that's right, being that it's only one. But it says, as a group, decide which offer you will take, if any. State your decision and explain your reasoning. And then, what do you believe caused failure of Quincy Apparel? What should the founders have done differently that might have led to a success? And then, as a group, compose your responses in a Word document. So I guess we can put 2 people on question 1 and 3 people on question 2.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm assuming we got to give something to Marshall, right? Or are we not counting on that?
I would still count on it. Maybe add him into the question 2 one, so that way, if he doesn't do it, then it's not as big of a deal. But I would say we definitely need to text him and be like, hey, are you able to do this? And then see what happens from there.
I feel like it's hard to split these up though.
It really is.
I don't know. You could just have one person write like 250 words and then just stop and have the other person take over from there or something.
Yeah.
Well, excepting if we're working separately, making sure that we're not overlapping saying the same things.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So two
you-
people would have to do their part first, and then the other two would have to finish the question after. I don't know.
Something we could also think of, and I mean, no one may want to do this, but being that this one is harder to separate, if only a couple people want to write it, and then like the other people read over it and make sure it's good and maybe add things here or there, and then the next assignment we have the other people are more writing it, and the people who wrote this one would be more of like
Editors.
editor.
Could I
That's the word
could I
I'm
make it
looking for.
just if I could make a suggestion in reading over the questions again, one person could do number one, just what offer are we going to do, what our decision is, and then in number two, two people could write a reason why it failed. So we just pick two reasons of failure, and then two people can write two reasons what could have been done that would led to success.
That's true. That's actually a pretty good way to split it up.
Because number one doesn't have to be very long. What can be thrown in there is even, hey, this was a possible decision to make, but we actually went with this, and this is why. And then, like I said, if people they want to know what caused the failure and what could have been done different, we've already come up with the fact that there are multiple reasons for failure, and there's multiple reasons for multiple ways they could have been successful. So for what that's worth.
Yeah. And so what did we decide? Are we shutting down the business?
That's the problem. We never agreed on it. So.
Very true.
Well, we don't necessarily have to agree like how we would do it. We could just agree on what we want to answer.
Yeah.
So
I'm happy to answer the first question. I feel like, everyone wants to see this business succeed, but at the same time, I think everyone's seeing the writing on the wall. So is our decision to shut the business down?
I don't have a problem with that. Yeah.
I mean, y'all know that's my answer.
yeah, that's fine. Yeah, and you could maybe say, Kenny, if you're going to do number one, just like, we would like to see them, succeed given what their product is and what their idea is, but because of the decisions they've made, they've put themselves in the position where we think they have to shut doors.
Yeah, and even talk about why we considered the other two answers, like kind of well, I guess.
Dave, I just recorded what you said, so I can just put that in the word.
Well, you don't want to quote me, man.
Look at this video again too. I'm recording it.
So I'll work on. I can work on one of the reasons that they failed, and I'll take. I don't even care. I'll go with offering too much too soon. That's what I was gonna say.
I was gonna say I would do the reasons they failed too, what caused them to fail. And I was thinking, whoever did the first one, I can just do the points that you didn't go over. So even if you want to go over 1 or 2 points, because like we went over about 3 or 4 different points.
Mm-hmm.
So if you wanted to go over a couple points, then I can just read yours.
Okay.
And go from there. But also we just have to be careful because like if we explain why we failed, we can't say what they like should have done to fix it because that's the next question.
Correct. No, we only say what they did to fail.
Okay. Unless like you want to do that one, because I can also do the other one too.
No, that's fine. I'll do that. What they could have done differently.
Okay, because the only thing with that is in case Marshall doesn't do it, you have kind of double duty.
No, but I mean, even with that, it's like 300 words or something.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
Okay, so we're all good with all of that?
Yeah, so we'll just, if you can do up a Google Doc again, we'll just put the names on the different assignments there, and then I'll text Marshall and let him know that to answer whatever.
Yeah.
Or I'll put it on the group thread.
Okay, does someone want to give a quick summary of everything we talked about, kind of? I mean, it's kind of hard because we've been talking about summaries, but just so I have a timestamp.
So don't go into business before you're ready. Make sure you've put all your ducks in a row and you have the knowledge you need. Hire the right team to be around you, and don't try to get too big too fast.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just making stuff up for it.
Okay, so I will do that Google Docs as soon as I get off. Then I'll submit the meeting link. I think that's it.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
I don't know if I told y'all, but I went ahead and logged into Zoom through my school account. So we now have like infinitely long meetings.
Yeah, I saw that it said BYUI Zoom on there.
Yeah.
So,
Not that we want to have infinitely long meetings, right?
Any longer than an hour.
I can't wait.
But we can go longer if like we push it now. So
Yeah.
okay, awesome. Well, thanks guys for coming.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, guys.
For always setting this stuff up. That's really nice.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Of course.